The human toll of such an eruption would be catastrophic. In the immediate vicinity of Yellowstone, survival would be nearly impossible due to pyroclastic flows and heavy ashfall. But even hundreds of miles away, the ash would pose serious health risks. When inhaled, volcanic ash can cause severe respiratory problems. It can also irritate eyes and skin and contaminate water supplies. Hospitals and emergency services would be overwhelmed, struggling to function with limited power and resources while dealing with a surge of respiratory patients. Mass evacuations would likely be necessary from heavily affected areas, creating a refugee crisis within the United States. The psychological impact would be enormous, as millions of people grapple with the loss of homes, livelihoods, and loved ones, as well as the shock of such a massive natural disaster. One of the most long-lasting and far-reaching effects of a Yellowstone eruption would be its impact on agriculture. The ashfall would devastate crops across a huge swath of North America. Even a few inches of ash can make farmland unusable for years. Livestock would also suffer, either from direct ash inhalation or from a lack of viable food sources. This agricultural devastation wouldn't just affect North America. The United States is one of the world's largest food exporters, particularly of grains. A sudden drop in U.S. food production could trigger a global food crisis. Food prices would skyrocket, and countries that rely heavily on U.S. imports could face severe shortages. Now, here's where things get really interesting from a scientific perspective. A Yellowstone supereruption would have global climate impacts that could last for years. The enormous amount of ash and sulfur dioxide ejected into the upper atmosphere would block out a significant amount of sunlight. This could trigger what scientists call a volcanic winter. Global temperatures could drop by several degrees for multiple years, drastically shortening growing seasons and further compounding the agricultural crisis. The effects of a Yellowstone eruption wouldn't stop at the borders of the United States. We'd be looking at a global catastrophe. The American economy, one of the largest in the world, would be severely disrupted. This would send shockwaves through global financial markets. International trade would be thrown into chaos as one of the world's largest economies essentially goes offline. Other nations would struggle to fill the economic void, potentially reshaping global power structures for decades to come. Yellowstone is renowned for its diverse wildlife and unique ecosystems. An eruption would be absolutely devastating for these. Many species, especially those unique to the Yellowstone area, could face extinction. The famous Yellowstone bison herds, wolves, and grizzly bears would be particularly vulnerable. The interconnected nature of ecosystems means that the loss of key species would trigger cascading effects throughout the entire food web. Wildlife migration patterns across North America would be severely disrupted, affecting ecosystems far beyond the immediate eruption zone. So, after all this devastation, what would recovery look like? Well, it would be a long, slow process. In the most heavily impacted areas near Yellowstone, it could take decades or even centuries for ecosystems to fully recover. The landscape itself would be transformed, with new lakes formed in crater depressions and lava flows creating new geological features. Human recovery would involve massive reconstruction efforts, likely spurring innovations in construction, agriculture, and environmental restoration technologies. Economic recovery would require unprecedented international cooperation and could take generations to fully restore pre-eruption prosperity levels. Here's the thing. While the scenario we've explored is pretty mind-blowing, the actual likelihood of a Yellowstone supereruption happening in our lifetimes is incredibly small. Current research suggests that we'd likely see warning signs decades or even centuries in advance. But studying these possibilities helps us better understand our planet and prepare for other, more likely, natural disasters. The monitoring techniques and disaster preparedness strategies developed for supervolcanoes help us prepare for earthquakes, tsunamis, and other natural hazards. For now, Yellowstone remains one of our planet's most beautiful and fascinating natural wonders, safely sleeping beneath our feet. Well, guys, we've been on quite a journey today, exploring one of nature's most powerful phenomena. I hope this dive into the science of Yellowstone has left you with a sense of awe for our planet's incredible forces. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding these processes helps us better appreciate and protect our world. If you found this fascinating, hit that like button, subscribe for more mind-blowing science, and let me know in the comments what other geological wonders you'd like us to explore.